and welcome back to Move Ministries for the start of our study on the book of Revelation. As we talked about the last time, we're going to begin sort of our crockpot weeks over these next couple of weeks, going through the who, what, when, where, why, and how. This context and sort of slowly warming up our hearts and marinating in all the goodness that God has for us, all this good context that will prepare us as we get into chapter 1. Okay, so we've already talked about the who of Revelation. Who is the author? We know that's the Apostle John. Who is the book for? The book is for the church. There's going to be 7 churches that we're going to talk about, and the letter was dispersed to those 7 churches. But always remember this: there is one church, right? And we are that church. And then who is the book of Revelation about? The book of Revelation is about Jesus Christ. And that's going to segue us perfectly into our next topic, which is what? What is the Revelation, the book of Revelation about? There's going to be 2 key verses. I'm going to give you the first one, and we're going to want to remember this for the entirety of our study. And it's verse 1:1, the first 5 words. It is the thesis of this book. It is the anchor to which we always come back to. And it says, the revelation of Jesus Christ. What does the word revelation mean? Well, if we look at it in the Greek, it's where we get the word apocalypse. And I think this is why when people come to the book of Revelation and they think of the word apocalypse, we think of it's the end of all things. It's the destruction of the world, the world. But if we go back to the original meaning of the word apocalypse, all that it simply means is unveiling, unwrapping, and revealing. So it is those 3 things of Jesus Christ. Think of it, I have both of my daughters sitting here with me, and they're theater and dance kids. Before they come out to perform, there is a curtain that veils them. And at the start of the performance, the curtain is pulled back, and we see the fullness of their glory and their beautiful costumes and makeup and all of those things. That's what God is doing here. And apocalyptic literature was actually very common in times of persecution. Here's the other verse that I want you to remember, and it's going to give us the outline for the whole of the book. And it's also in chapter 1, verse 19. And it says, therefore, write these things which you have seen. This is Jesus talking to the Apostle John. Write the things which you have seen, and the things which are, and the things which will take place after these things. This is the whole outline for the whole book. It will be our guide as to where we are historically. Okay, so the things which you have seen, that's chapter 1. Write down what you just saw, John. The things which are the present time, that's going to be chapters 2 and 3. And the things which will take place after these things. This is chapter 4 and beyond, all the way to the end, to chapter 21. That's the outline of the whole book. Now, I know it seems very simple, right? This is who the book is about and what the outline is. I think Revelation tends to intimidate people, but remember, this is a book of blessing, and God's intent was to reveal himself, not to give us all these codes and these mysteries and all these things that we can't understand. He wants us to be encouraged. And this is going to segue us into our next topic, which what's happening historically? Why would the church need such encouragement? Well, historically, this was a time of persecution. Right away, we see John is on the island of Patmos. Why? Because of persecution. The Emperor Domitian had sentenced him to isolation on the island of Patmos after trying to boil him unsuccessfully in oil in the Colosseum, as we talked about last time. So persecution is ramping up. The other thing that is really ramping up is temptation to submit to emperor worship. We'll get into this as we talk about the churches the 7 churches that are addressed in Revelation. Each of these churches has a god or goddess, and nearly all of them, if not all of them, have some sort of temple in which all of their citizens must come to the temple every year and give just a pinch, just a teeny bit of incense on the altar dedicated to their patron saint and declare that that saint was a god or goddess. Obviously, this is a problem for Christians. We serve one God and one God only, and to deny his name is blasphemy. And Christians were under a great temptation to just offer this teeny little compromise. We can rationalize compromises in our minds, can't we? They could pay for this with their life, and to me, in some ways, if they were martyred for this, that was the easiest part, right? You kill me, I go straight to Jesus. But there was also a penalty, such as in some of the cities had guilds, and if you didn't offer this incense, you would be removed from your guild, which would mean you couldn't work. You can't work, you can't have money, and you can't feed your family. And so you would die a slow, painful death or be reduced to very minimal work and live in poverty. So the temptation to succumb to just a small amount of compromise was really great. And so this book serves as encouragement for the church that was suffering in persecution and being tempted. And you think about the applications today. Are we under any temptation to just compromise? Just a little bit, just in this very small way, right? I think of the illustration of an avalanche, right? An avalanche starts as one teeny tiny snowflake, adds up on top of the next, and the next, and the next, and the next, until the very last snowflake hits and the whole thing collapses. It wasn't that one snowflake, right? It wasn't that last pinch. It was all of these things that added up to destruction and to forsaking the name of Christ. I read the book of Second Thessalonians this morning, and I'm going to leave you with this for our study this morning. This is what Paul writes to those in Thessalonica who were under persecution and false teaching, the temptation to give into false teaching. It says in Second Thessalonians chapter 2, verses 15 through 17, "With these things in mind, dear brothers and sisters, stand firm. Keep a strong grip on the teaching we passed on to you both in person and by letter." How do we keep ourselves from temptation? It doesn't start when you're standing before the altar with your little pinch of incense. Temptation is won and lost when we are on our knees, right? And we stand firm and we have a hold, a strong, firm grip on the teaching. Now, this is the encouragement, and this is what I'll leave you with. "Now may our Lord Jesus Christ himself and God our Father, who loved us and by his grace gave us eternal comfort and a wonderful hope, comfort you and strengthen you in every good thing that you do and say." Blessings upon you. I will see you next week.